Hey everybody, doing a video today. I've used the Palante V2 for about 3 days now. Me and a bunch of other people were in the Goat Rocks Wilderness. We got smoked out of there by fires and we were underneath Mount Adams. I think this lake is called 7057. So used this pack for 3 days, so I thought I'd talk about it a little bit. And yeah, we'll go over the straps first and then we'll start on the other stuff. Okay, so I've never in my entire life had a backpack that didn't have a belt on it. I started out with a Granite Gear Crown VC60 and I went on to a KS40. And this is my very first pack that has no hip belt on it. So I was kind of weirded out about it, like which should I get? I did get the version that has the stowable hip belt, and I'm glad because the first thing that I'll lead off with is we were going out to the Goat Rocks for 5 days. So I had 5 days of food in this and about an 8-pound base weight. Our mileages weren't so big, so I brought some my new Shama sandals. So it put me just over 20 pounds, and the shoulder straps were perfect all day. We did about 13 miles, but I'm telling you, right around mile 12, they really started to get into me. Started to hurt my shoulders. I would put my thumbs underneath, try to like move the shoulder straps a little left, a little right, and that staved it off a little bit. But I really started to need the belt, and once I put the belt out and on, it really took all the pain off my shoulders. So if you are thinking that you're going to ever use this with some heavy carry days, I would definitely consider the hip belt. Next up, about the shoulder straps are these stretch mesh pockets. Originally, I wanted to carry water in them. I thought it'd be a really good idea. It's really not meant for water, so I don't do it. And I don't actually end up needing that anyways. I'm glad they put these on. I had my phone in here and I took my pack off and it flew out. So if you're using these, definitely cinch them up. So I was lucky enough on the PCT that I saw several different versions of both the V1 and the V2. And at the points that I'd seen them, the people that had them probably had about 700, 800 miles on them. And there was a teeny bit of wear right here, but it was nothing out of hand. It wasn't anything like, oh, this is a problem. But yeah, when you're gonna get wear on this bag, it's really gonna start popping out here first, but it should not be a problem. Okay, next, let's go over the side pockets. I've got a 2-liter Evernew bladder right here. The pockets are roomy. You can get 2 bottles on each side if you wanna use, 2 1 liter bottles there. There's tons of room. I've got electrolytes right there. I've got Sawyer Mini right there. So there's tons of room in the side pockets. I mentioned a second ago that I'd seen bags that had 700 miles of use. To me, I didn't see any wear right here on those bags, but to me, this seems kind of like maybe like a teeny bit of a weak point right here, this little elastic over time. But then again, like I just said, I just saw 2 700-mile bags that didn't have any issues. One thing that I do think is a teeny bit of an issue is that there's no drain holes that I can feel. Iceberg. So yeah, there's no drain holes anywhere here. I have a friend that made a hole. He put a grommet in there and made his own drain hole. Usually it's not going to be a problem unless you live and are hiking in an area where there's going to be all day rain, but there's space right there and running down the bottle, and it will pool all through here. So something to think about for the future for Palante. Okay, so I'll talk about the hip belt a little bit more. They use seatbelt material, which is kind of a surprise. When I first heard about it, I was like, what? But if you think about it, it is really kind of one of the lightest but widest materials that you can think of. And again, you don't really need cushion. This is really just supposed to cinch around your waist and keep the weight off your shoulders a little bit. The main show is obviously the shoulders. These pads are thick. Like I said earlier, they were comfortable for 12 straight miles with 5 days of food in the pack, which I think is completely reasonable. These are really just for, the first days of a long carry or something like that. You do pay, I think, a 2-ounce penalty. Without this, it's 14.8, but like I said earlier, I think it's a good move. Okay, let's talk about the stretch mesh bottom pocket. I'm using it for food. Other people use it for other things. It's kind of mesh pants, like yoga pants material. I have complete confidence in it. The 2 bags that I saw that had a lot of use on it had no issues with it. And if anything ever does break through or any abrasions happens, I think it's probably pretty easy to fix. So really no issues there. I've used the trash pocket as intended, and it really is pretty easy. You got to be careful though. I was putting trash into the the hip belt pocket, so don't do that. They're really close. So just make sure you're putting trash away in here. And don't forget that it screws with me because I've done it for the past 3 nights. I forgot that I've kept food in here, or I had trash wrappers in here. Definitely take trash and food out of here before you go to bed, or mice will, maybe getting into it. Okay, so when this pack first came out, the back pocket, this mesh material is one of the kind of the biggest mysteries. Like, hey, what's this stuff? When Palante first released this, they did like an Instagram live feed, and I asked them, I'm like, how stretchy is this? Is it 50% less stretchy? They said, yeah, it's about 40% less stretchy than their previous Quest 1209C heavy lycra mesh. But now that I felt it, that is how stretchy it is, but it's considerably stronger. Like, I have no worries about this at all. The trade-off is you don't get to see everything. You do get to see shapes, so like if you're looking, like I can tell right there, that's like my poo trowel, so I know it's there. But it would be kind of nice to see stuff, but it's not really that huge of a deal. Okay, so let's talk about materials. They use a 150 denier hybrid Cuban, so it's 150 denier nylon on the outside, and with a Cuban backer. And it was first known on Hyperlight mountain gear backpacks, which I'm not a massive fan of, but if I really sat down to think about the weight of the fabric, it's a really good weight of fabric. It's 5 ounces per square yard. My previous favorite, which is Dyneema 210X, which is bulletproof. It's almost too bulletproof. I mean, if a guy like Cam Honan can get 6,000, 8,000 miles, like several through hikes out of the material, which it would take me a lifetime, maybe several lifetimes, you can make an argument that it's almost too overbuilt. But Dyneema 210X was 4.8 ounces. So this is 0.2 ounces more, but I think you get a lot more out of this, especially if you're hiking in wet weather. It's not a waterproof backpack, but it is extremely water resistant. Water's really only gonna get through the seams, and it's not gonna wet out. It's not gonna soak as much. As much as I love Dyneema 210X, the PU backer will also eventually degrade away, and it does after hours and hours of rain start to hold water, and that can actually be a lot of weight over the course of the day. So if you're thinking about doing the AT where it rains a lot, this fabric will appeal to you. So I just mentioned through hikes. So if you're going to do the PCT in this, I did a month of the PCT, and I just finished it a little bit ago. The bear can that I got was 600 cubic centimeters. It was the Barricade Scout, and it was a little too big for this. I already had this pack, but I didn't like how it fit in the Palante V2, so I went with the KS40. I just thought it was a better Sierra bag. But if you're doing the PCT and you want to make this your through hiking backpack, I think it's totally doable. Just do the BV 450 and do a run from Independence to like VVR. Don't try to do a run all the way from Kennedy Meadows all the way to like Reds Meadow or VVR or something like that. Just get in the Sierra with a 450, maybe a little bit of like 1 day overflow on the outside, and I think it's very doable that way. Okay, let's talk about the roll top closure. It's really wide at the top, helps get things in. V's down really, kind of wide at the top, narrow at the bottom. I'm not really sure why they do it. It could help with reaching around and being able to grab bottles. It could be aesthetics. I'm not even sure why they do it. Up here at the top, this hardware weighs very, very little. I'm glad they use the snaps. I've never had a roll top like this. My KS40 has just a cinch top, which I'm a fan of. Actually I thought about this bag prior, and I'm like, why don't they just use a cinch top? But sometimes if you get a lot of rain during the day, it can kind of pool there, kind of stay there. It's not such a big deal with this material that they use, but this is a much sleeker kind of situation in rain when you roll it all the way down. It just helps kind of that way. All right, so lastly, let's talk about the inside of the bag. So this right now is, like I said, an 8-pound base with a couple days of food in there. So you can see you have plenty of room. I would not try to really above this line, load it above this line too far. It's really kind of there's a lot of room here, and you can use it if you want, but it really doesn't help when you try to roll it down. Stitching is real good. I remember when it first came, it's one of the first things I did was turn it inside out and look at the stitching. Unlike John Abella, I don't really care if there's taping here. I will forever and ever use a 0.9 ounce Nylofume bag or a 0.48 ounce turkey bag. It's not a big deal. I don't feel like it needs to be, $10 more just for seam taping here. no problems with the seams at all. You know, they use professional sewers out of Arizona, and you can really kind of tell. It's made in Arizona, which is cool. I'm always kind of one that like I'm gonna just buy whatever I think is the best, but when it can be made in America, that's also really awesome. Yeah, so that's just an impromptu, like, quick take. 3 days I've had this bag. One thing about it I wish I had, if you watch any of my videos, you know I'm kind of a freak about my 1/8 inch CCF pad, and I can't, like, I like to use it as like a sit pad and also a siesta pad, but on this pack I have to use it as the back padding that sits up against my pack, and I can't really get to it too well, so I may have to do like I may have to get like a Z seats, like a Z light seat, and put it on top. But I'm still trying to figure that one out. So if 1/8 CCF pads are important to you, that's kind of a problem with this pack, but it's not a massive deal. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next video.